The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
Some Sadducees, those who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus and asked him a question. Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no children, the man shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother. Now, there were 7 brothers. The first married and died childless. Then the second and the third married her, and so in the same way all 7 died childless. Finally, the woman also died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had married her. Jesus said to them, those who belong to this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. Instead, they cannot die anymore because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. And the fact that the dead are raised, Moses himself showed in the story about the bush, where he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now he is God not of the dead, but of the living, for to him all of them are alive. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
We're going to begin by acknowledging that the gospel text that I just read is not about marriage. Yeah, it's true that 9 of the 12 verses in the story mention marriage, but believe me, it is not about that. As they say, the thing is not the thing. Now, Jesus is teaching in the temple that day, as he has been each day since he entered Jerusalem for the last time. He's already turned over the tables in the temple and driven out the merchants. And now, in the temple, he is being, well, some might say interrogated, some may just say questioned. They are saying things to him like, just who do you think you are? Or who gives you the authority to say the things and teach the things? And now, on this day, it's the Sadducees who question him, using a part of the law of Moses. You see, the Sadducees are one of the major sects of the Jews in Jesus' time, one composed of wealthy individuals who have a large role in the temple community. They differ from the Pharisees in that they do not believe in the resurrection. They also accept only the first 5 books of the Hebrew Scriptures, the Pentecost. Those do not include Psalms. They do not include much in the way of history. They certainly do not include the prophets. But they are the ones that are attributed to Moses. And those 5 books do not mention anything like the resurrection, only life and death on this earth. So, they test Jesus by taking one of the laws of Moses and taking it to ridiculous extremes. It's called Levirate marriage. It's the practice of the man marrying his childless brother's widow. And it was a way of trying to assure that the family name of the brother would continue. Since women at that time were mostly possessions, either of their father first or their husband, it was also a way of taking care of women in a society that did not recognize that they had any real place other than bearing children. So for widows, it was very important to have that family structure just for their own survival. But the question Jesus is asked is absurd. This widow has married and buried 7 husbands and has had no child. So they ask, if there is a resurrection, as you say there is, When she dies, which husband will she be married to? Which man will she belong to? Jesus, of course, does not take the bait. He explains only that the resurrected life is not like this life. The things that are done, the practices that we follow, the institutions that we create will not be needed in that age. Then Jesus takes a bit of a jab at the Sadducees by very briefly going himself into the book of Moses, to where Moses encounters God in the burning bush and calls him the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In the present tense, not the past. For this is the God of the living, not of the dead. For to him all of them are alive. Yes, the Sadducees seem to have had as their purpose testing Jesus. Perhaps to discredit this rural, illiterate preacher and teacher who can't possibly refute their own knowledge and understanding of God. But it makes me wonder if at some level, maybe they were wanting to know more too. We do, don't we? Don't we wish Jesus would give us a few more details, a glimpse of this kingdom to come? We have so many questions we would like to ask. Just this past week, I attended 2 funerals. One, the grand and splendid Requiem Mass in the Episcopal Cathedral for Bishop Montgomery, a man who remained active and aware and faithful up until the day he died at the age of 98. The other at a funeral home in a small, rural Illinois village for a woman, a faithful Methodist, who until her last several years, when she suffered frontal lobe dementia and turned into a fearful and uncontrollable shadow of herself and broke the hearts of her family. And yet, the words of the funeral service are the same. I am the resurrection and the life. Do not let your hearts be troubled. I know that my Redeemer lives. The stories are told that fill out the earthly life of those who have died and what they mean to those they have left behind. We might imagine what they're doing now, reuniting with those who preceded them, engaging in their favorite activities. In my family, we imagined our mother playing bridge and watching Cubs games, particularly in that year that the Cubs finally won the World Series. Or maybe we saw her perched on the top of a red piano and leading the singing in our vacation spot. Our grandmother, on the other hand, was reorganizing and cleaning heaven in her German Hausfrau manner, planting her roses and singing soprano in the choir. You know, you've done the same things, haven't you? That's one of the ways we find comfort in our loss and in our grief. And it helps. Yet these comforts tend to be just with our own frame of our own lives in the here and now. Maybe Jesus didn't give us a detailed description of the life to come because it's beyond our human ability to imagine. Or maybe, just maybe, he already showed us. And it is the realm of God that will be fulfilled when we follow him, when we truly love God and our neighbor, when we have fed the hungry, tended the sick and oppressed, and shared the living Christ with all that we meet. When there's justice and mercy for all people, and weapons are no longer our way of keeping the peace. Even as we celebrate the lives of our loved ones who have died, even as we honor tomorrow all of those who have served our country in the military to keep us safe from harm, let us also stretch our imaginations beyond this world as it is and try to see the world as God meant it to be. For who knows? Maybe the veil between this age and the age to come is not as impenetrable as we think it is. Maybe we just need to look harder. Amen.